And now, live from the studios of Freedom's Phoenix, Ernest Hancock.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear.
Yeah, it's not clear. We're gonna get some help clearing it up here with my good friend Chuck Baldwin. Now, this is we've crossed paths several times and got to know each other a little bit, and I feel like I know him, pretty well since he's in my living room every Sunday. But the one thing that I want to make sure people know, it's refreshing to be able, whether you're a person of faith or not, is to have someone up there that has, as the prime directive of all of this was if you're going to be freed, that's kind of what Christ was all about. It's like, hey, man, through me, and it's for what? For liberty. And if don't have the free will to choose, the direction in life, well, then how can you be considered virtuous? It's not virtuous to do what the government wants you while they got a gun to your forehead. So I can understand the message that he has. I don't get at the end of the sermon mad with my yelling at the TV like I would as if I was watching Fox or CNN or MSNBC. So you listen to Pastor Baldwin, you can tell there's something going on in Montana. And I'm just, I'm glad we got a chance to talk to you, because you went to Montana from Florida where you had your congregation before. There was, you'd rather left and they'd rather you go because of whatever, you're playing too much politics and getting too real for them. And so you can talk about that as much as you want. But I'm really concerned with or interested in why the Flathead Valley in Montana. What are you planning on doing there? And from your sermons, I'm getting the impression that you're willing to be a revolutionary era type pastor that's saying, man, chest out and bring the state on, let's rock and roll. And they're starting to, in the press and everything, starting to go, you know what? We got somebody over here that needs to be demonized. And they even bringing in Southern Poverty Law Center and trying to associate you with any and whatever. And I already know where this goes. We've had experience with them here in Arizona. So I want you to go ahead and walk us through. You left Florida. You went to Montana. Tell me everything.
Wow, it's great to be with you, Ernest. And boy, the great work you've been doing all these years, man, I appreciate you so much. We left the home that we knew for 35 years. My wife and I started that church down there, and we stayed there for 35 years. And then last October, we moved, and not just us, but our entire family, all of our married kids and their families, a total of 18 people, 5 different families, all came here. And we, when I was running for the Constitution Party president in 2008, I traveled that year, and the next year, 2009, over 60,000 miles, and that's conservatively speaking. We went all over the country, border to border, coast to coast. I had an opportunity to see just about every state, only a handful that I didn't go to. Big cities, small towns, big crowds, small crowds. I got a chance to see this country like I've never had an opportunity to see it before. And I recognized immediately that not every geographical location shares the same love for liberty and the same spirit of liberty. And I noticed, too, that the bigger the city, the less sense and appreciation of liberty there seemed to be. So anyway, my family and I, we studied this thing. We researched, we prayed, we agonized, we thought about it. We looked at the states individually. We looked at regions. We just took the whole country, and we even looked at parts of, outside the country. To be honest with you, and we just really studied where do we want to. We knew that our work there in Florida was drawing to a close. I'd known that for a while. The people there, for the most part, were not enamored with the message that I was bringing. I could tell the resistance was there. They respected me because of the long time I'd been there and so forth, but I knew the message was not being received. I knew that that's not where I wanted to be. when what happens, what we know is coming. I knew I didn't want to be there.
Well,
and
in
so
Florida,
where did we want to be?
I would imagine in Florida, the economic situation was all around them. I mean, it's not like they didn't notice.
Florida, like everywhere else, is really feeling it, but it was more than the economy. In fact, the economy had very little to do with where we chose to go. I got to be upfront and tell you that. I mean, it was not money. It was not financial security. It was not economic prosperity. That was really not a non-factor. We wanted to be, mainly, I wanted to be with people who love freedom. I wanted to be around people who kind of had a clue as to what was going on in the country. That when you talked about some of the things that you and I talk about all the time, they didn't look at you with that deer in the headlight stare that we're all familiar with. I wanted to be around people that really loved freedom, that had a zeal in their heart to fight and defend freedom. And I got to tell you, in my traveling throughout the country, I had the opportunity to come up here on about 3 or 4 different occasions. And every time I came here, I sensed something that I never felt anywhere else. And it drew me like a magnet to this place. And, I just sensed that there was a people here that really did love freedom. And they were independent-minded. I just felt something here that I'd never felt before.
Well, they weren't on a fluoridated water supply.
And whatever else.
Yeah, don't laugh, man.
I know, I got you. So, anyway, through the long, we studied it, we looked at it hard, we researched it, we narrowed it down. The first thing we did was eliminate everything east of the Mississippi River. That was just us, okay? There's some great people in Tennessee, great people in South Carolina, New Hampshire, the other places out there are great, but we just decided we did not want to be east of the Mississippi River when all this stuff takes place. And so we looked west, we looked at the states that were appealing to us, we looked at Arizona, we looked at Oklahoma, we looked at Texas, we looked at Missouri. One by one, we eliminated those states. We were drawn to the mountain states, and finally came down to Wyoming, Idaho, and Montana, then finally Montana, and then finally the Flathead Valley, and here we are. And I got to tell you, Ernest, I have not regretted this move one bit, not one bit. I would do it again in a heartbeat. My only regret is I wasn't here a long time before.
Well, you wound up there in October, so you got a dose of winter right away. It's like moving to Phoenix in June or something. So, so when you say the Flathead Valley, you look at Montana, you got on the West Coast, just so people don't have a map in front of them, you got California, Oregon, Washington. Then you go east, and there's Idaho has its little sliver that goes up to the Canadian border. And then right to the east of Idaho is Montana, and it's right above Idaho and Wyoming. So it's like directly north of Arizona. So if you go north, I don't know how far it is, 1,500 miles or something, boom, you're in Montana. You have a long border with Canada. We have a totally different big sky feel. You're up there into nothing, and it's beautiful. I've been up there. I've been through there. I'm driving, and I'm going, wow, man, this is like, if you say God's country, you know what I'm talking about. So to be in the Flathead. Now, where is the Flathead Valley? And as Montana is so big, it's in what part of the state?
Yeah, it's in the northwestern part of the state, Ernest. It's on the west side of the Rocky Mountains, about 80 or 90 miles south of the Canadian border, about 100 miles north of Missoula. It is, in my opinion, the most beautiful piece of real estate in the world. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Okay, now when we come back, we'll get a little bit more, details. How many people live in the valley? How big's the county? Is it a county? And if you're going to is that the place you want to launch something for a gubernatorial race? How many people live in Montana? How many votes you got to get? Why would you even run? Is that a possibility? Says who? Well, lots of questions. We're going to have a short period to get it from Chuck Baldwin. We're going to find out everything when we come back on Declare Your Independence in just a little bit.